My parents chose my 25th birthday to tell me I was adopted. Not in the privacy of our home. Not gently. Not with regret. They took me to an expensive restaurant downtown, ordered champagne I knew they couldn't really afford, and waited until the main course arrived before my mother placed both hands on the white tablecloth and said, "There's something you need to understand, Eliana. You were never truly ours." My father slid a folder across the table. Inside was a legal waiver. They wanted me to sign away any interest in the Cross family estate. They thought I would break. They thought I would cry, beg, or apologize for taking up space in a family that had spent 25 years reminding me I was lucky to be there. What neither of them knew was that my birth mother, my little brother, and my birth grandmother were sitting 3 tables behind them. They had been there the entire time. And they had heard every word. If you've ever felt like you had to earn your place in someone's life, comment, "I deserve better." Because this story is about the night I stopped begging people to love me and walked toward the people who already did. My name is Eliana Cross. Growing up, I knew something was different about me long before I knew I was adopted. Nobody had to say it outright. I could feel it in the way my mother, Marla, introduced me. "This is Eliana," she would say at family gatherings. Then there would always be a pause before she added, "We adopted her when she was a baby." It was never said with pride. It was said like she wanted credit. Like rescuing me had been her greatest accomplishment. My father, Howard, was quieter. He rarely said anything cruel himself. That was almost worse. He sat beside my mother while she made cutting remarks and looked down at his plate. "You should be grateful," she would tell me whenever I asked for something ordinary. A school trip. A new winter coat. A ride home after practice. You have opportunities other children would dream of. I learned early that the fastest way to survive in that house was to need as little as possible. I stopped asking for birthday parties when I was 9. I stopped asking for help with homework when I was 11. By 16, I was working weekends at a grocery store and saving every dollar I could. I became easy, quiet, useful. My mother liked useful. She liked that I cooked dinner when she worked late. She liked that I watched my cousin's children during holidays. She liked that I handled errands for my father when his knees started bothering him. But she never liked me. There's a difference between being appreciated and being loved. The only person who ever made me feel like I belonged was my grandfather, Arthur Cross. He was my father's dad. He lived in a big old house on Briarwood Avenue, the kind with a wraparound porch and faded blue shutters. Every Sunday, he made grilled cheese sandwiches and let me sit at the kitchen counter while he read the newspaper. When I was 12, my cousin Melissa told me I wasn't a real Cross. I ran to Grandpa Arthur's house crying so hard I could barely speak. He didn't ask me what happened at first. He just put a blanket around my shoulders and made me hot chocolate. Then he looked at me and said, "Family isn't the people who use your name. It's the people who protect your heart." I carried those words with me for years. Grandpa Arthur died when I was 23. My parents moved into his house almost immediately. They said it had been his wish. They said he wanted them to be comfortable. I was too busy grieving to ask questions. 2 years later, a few months before my 25th birthday, I found out the truth. It started with a DNA test. I had always been curious. I wanted to know where my dark eyes came from, why I had a different smile than everyone else in my family photos. I didn't expect anything major. Then I got a message from a woman named Nadia Flores. She wrote, "I don't want to disturb your life, but I believe I may be your birth mother." I stared at that message for an hour before replying. We met at a small cafe halfway between our towns. Nadia was nervous. So nervous that she spilled sugar across the table before I even sat down. She had my eyes, my hands, even the same habit of twisting a napkin when she was trying not to cry. She told me she had been 18 when she got pregnant. Her family had been struggling financially, and she had been pressured into placing me for adoption. "But I never stopped thinking about you," she said. Then she handed me a small box. Inside were 25 birthday cards. One for every year of my life. Some were sealed. Some had little notes written inside. Some had photographs of Nadia, my grandmother Miriam, and my younger brother Matteo. I sent them through the agency, Nadia said. Every year. I was told they were being delivered. They hadn't been. My parents had received every card. They had hidden every one. I spent the next 6 months getting to know my birth family carefully. There was no dramatic reunion where everything became perfect overnight. There were awkward silences. There were tears. There were questions none of us knew how to ask. But there was also warmth. Nadia called just to ask how my day went. Matteo sent me ridiculous videos and called me Big Sister after only 3 weeks. My grandmother Miriam made too much food every time I visited and sent leftovers home in containers I kept forgetting to return. No one asked me for anything. No one made me prove I was grateful. They just made room. Then, 1 month before my birthday, I received a letter from an attorney's office. It concerned the Arthur Cross Family Trust. At first, I thought it was a mistake. But when I read the documents, I understood why my parents had suddenly become interested in celebrating my birthday. My grandfather had created a trust years before he died. The trust had paid a monthly household allowance to my parents while they raised me. It had helped with the Briarwood house, bills, and expenses. But the payments had a condition. They ended when I turned 25. And on that date, the trust assets, including the house, would transfer under my control. My parents had known. They had known for years. They had raised me while receiving money for it, and now that the money was ending, they wanted me out of the way before I learned what Grandpa Arthur had left me. That was why my mother called 2 weeks before my birthday. "We want to take you somewhere special," she said sweetly. "You only turn 25 once." I almost laughed. My mother had forgotten my birthday twice in my life. But I said yes. Then I called Nadia. I told her I had a feeling my parents were planning something. I told her about the trust. I told her I didn't want to hear whatever they had to say alone. Nadia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Tell us where to be." The restaurant was called Bellavere. It was elegant, dimly lit, and full of the kind of people who spoke softly because they thought money made them important. My parents sat across from me in their best clothes. My mother wore cream silk. My father had on the watch he only wore to weddings and funerals. I noticed the leather folder beside my father's chair before we even ordered. I knew this was not a birthday dinner. It was an execution. My mother made small talk through the appetizer. My father talked about traffic. Neither of them touched much of their food. Finally, after the waiter cleared our plates, my mother folded her hands. "Eliana," she began, "there are things we should have told you years ago." I looked at her. She watched my face carefully. "You were adopted," she said. "Your father and I took you in as an infant. We gave you a home, an education, a future." I said nothing. She continued. "You were never biologically connected to the Cross family." My father opened his folder and slid a document toward me. "It's just a formality," he said. "A release acknowledging that you understand you have no claim to our estate or inheritance." I picked it up. It was not a formality. It was a waiver of any claim connected to their assets, their estate, and their family property. My mother took a sip of wine. "You're an adult now," she said. "You have your own life. It's time we all move forward." "Why today?" I asked. Her smile faltered. "What do you mean? Why did you choose my 25th birthday?" My father's fingers tightened around his glass. My mother looked at him, then back at me. "There are practical matters," she said. "Like the trust." The silence that followed was the first honest thing my parents had ever given me. My father went pale. My mother's eyes narrowed. "You know about that?" "I know enough." She sat up straighter. "Your grandfather helped us raise you. That was his decision. No, I said. He protected me from you. That was his decision. My father finally spoke. We did our best, Eliana. My mother gave a short laugh. We did more than our best. We kept you when we didn't have to. The words landed between us. She didn't seem to understand what she had admitted. We kept you, she repeated, colder now. There were benefits when you were young. The trust support helped. But that ends now. You're not a child anymore, and frankly, there's no reason for us to continue this arrangement. Arrangement. That was what I had been to them. Not a daughter. Not family. An arrangement. I reached into my bag and placed 3 items on the table. The first was a letter from my attorney. The second was a copy of Grandpa Arthur's trust distribution schedule. The third was a stack of birthday cards tied with a blue ribbon. My father read the trust document first. His face collapsed. My mother grabbed it from his hand and scanned the page. Her lips parted when she saw the line stating that all household distributions ended on my 25th birthday and beneficiary authority transferred to me. You can't do this, she whispered. I'm not doing anything, I said. Grandpa Arthur did. Then she looked at the cards. What are those? 25 birthdays, I said. From my birth mother. My mother didn't touch them. You kept them from me, I said. Every card. Every letter. You let me believe no one had ever wanted me. We were protecting you, she said quickly. From love. My father looked down at the table. I wanted him to defend me. Even then, some small part of me wanted him to say, * your mother was wrong. I was wrong. You deserved better. * but he said nothing. My mother reached for my hand. Whatever happened, she said, we're still your parents. We're still family. That was when I stood up. She stood too. Where are you going? I picked up my purse. Then I looked past her shoulder. My family, I said quietly, is sitting 3 tables behind you. My mother turned around. Nadia stood first. Then Mateo. Then Grandma Miriam. They didn't glare. They didn't yell. They didn't need to. Nadia's eyes filled with tears when she saw me. Grandma Miriam pulled out the empty chair beside her. And Mateo gave me the smallest, most nervous smile. We saved you a seat, he said. I walked away from my parents' table. My mother called my name once. Then again. I didn't look back. At that table, Nadia held my hand. Grandma Miriam hugged me. Mateo pushed a slice of chocolate cake toward me. It had 25 candles. For the first time in my life, I didn't make a wish. I didn't need one. My parents had spent years teaching me to stay small, stay useful, stay grateful for whatever little space they gave me. But that night, I learned I did not have to fight for a seat at a table where I was unwanted. I only had to walk toward the people who had already made room. If this story touched you, comment, I deserve better. And remember, real love does not make you earn your place.